Hi, in this video I want to talk with you about the midpoint formula. Now let's start with what does the midpoint formula do for us. So let's suppose I've got 2 points in space, say one here and one here. And we'll label these x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. And we're going to think about this line in between them, but what we're actually looking for is the coordinates of this dot that is exactly halfway between these 2 points on that line segment. So this is called the midpoint of that line segment. We'll label it M. And M is a point in space, which means it's got an x coordinate and a y coordinate. Okay. Now, it turns out that if we give this a little bit of thought, we can come to the fact that that midpoint has to have an x-coordinate that is exactly halfway in between the x-coordinates of the original 2 points. And likewise, it has to have a y-coordinate that is exactly halfway in between. And so the way that you find those is by taking the average of the 2 coordinates, the 2 separate coordinates, or you add them together and divide by 2. So if we had, for example, say the points, so let's suppose we were wanting to find the midpoint between the points -2, 3, and 1, -3. And if we think about what that means in space, so I've got a point here at -2, 3, and a point at 1, -3. And if I envision the line between those 2 points, there's a point that is dead center, and it's going to be right about here, maybe. So to find the coordinates of that point, we add our 2 x-coordinates together and divide by 2. And we add our 2 y-coordinates together and divide by 2. And sure enough, I have my point in the wrong spot. Let's move that guy. Oops. He should be right here. That's where I was going to put him to begin with. Okay. So my midpoint is at the coordinates -1/2, 0. Okay, so this is the midpoint formula. And you want to put it in your toolbox. It's a companion to, but different from, the distance formula. And we will use both of these, again, extensively throughout this class and in the next class. I want to do one more example before I turn you loose. So suppose I know that the midpoint between 2 points A and B is at the coordinates, we'll go for -3, 2. If A is at the coordinates 4, 7, find B. So let's think about what we've got going here. I've got a midpoint here at -3, 2. And I've got another point clear up here, A, 4, 7. Now we have to be a little careful here because what we're actually looking for is this point down here, B. And the key here is that this distance is equal to that distance. So D1 equals D2. But we don't have to go to the distance formula because that's going to get complicated because it's not going to give us exactly the point we want, but the midpoint formula will. Because what do I know? I know that the x-coordinate, and let's just call this guy x, y. The x-coordinate of my midpoint is equal to the x-coordinate of my A point plus the x-coordinate of B divided by 2, which means that x is going to be -10. And the y-coordinate of my midpoint is equal to the y-coordinate of my A plus the y-coordinate of B divided by 2, which means y is -3. So that means that my point B is at the coordinates -10, -3. All right, I hope this has been helpful. I'll talk with you again soon.